welcome back. This is Alden Antonucci with another Extreme Power Hour podcast where I've got a great friend of mine, Molly Whalen. And where we've been talking about kind of like business 101 to like, you know what, when do I leave my job to, I got to change my mindset. And there's all these variables and there's so many hats. And I kind of put variables and hats in the same kind of category of like, oh my gosh, there's so much there. And you know what? What we just left off talking about was systems. If you start putting systems into place, you start getting into a better routine. Your employees learn how to create continuity in your business where every house is cleaned at the same pattern, that same level, to then putting in these systems in place that brings us into now more of the area of focus of how do I now be part of that 9% you were talking about that are like, fully profitable. This business is growing. I want to be part of this exponential growth curve. And so I want you to kind of take it and explain how to grow that business like that.
Right. So all my workshops are called Uplevel Your Business. And I really want to presence that. I'm not deep diving into everything in a really deep level. I'm giving you kind of an overview on this, but there are 4 areas to focus on up-leveling your business, and they are critical. So I talk about linear growth, and linear growth is great, and I don't want to belittle it. It's 6 to 12% of growth every year.
So linear growth, just to visualize it, it's just like brrr.
It is. And there's a lot of people that like it, right? It's organic growth, and they're just kind of, they're going through it because they're trying to value their time and the amount of money that they want to make, right? And so I really want to presence that this is, I don't want you to go into shame base and be like, oh, I've only had linear growth for like the last 5 years. So it's great that you've had growth, as we talked about before, where we're talking about, only 40% of businesses are profitable and, half of businesses in 5 years fail. And, so if you're having that linear growth, congratulations, really. If you really want to up level and have exponential growth, I'm going to talk about that too. But linear growth, just to get into its operating systems, we talked about that before. You've got to have those systems to have growth. Without systems, it's very painful, and it all falls on you. The more systems that you have, the more that you can step out of your business and work on it instead of in it.
Right.
And that's critical, right? And then you also need that business development. And business development could be anything from the way that we've talked about the speed of business, from functioning speed to processing speed, and how quickly you can move from A to Z with a client, right? From a client attrition and attraction to selling them and keeping them. So that's really important. Those relationships with your clients are vital. Relationships with your employees are really vital as well. And then you're looking at sales and profit, right? And how do you find that sweet spot? Because it's not always more sales is more profit, right? So finding that sweet spot where the sales is really driving the profit. And that is that linear growth that we've talked about. So for those of you that really want to push the envelope, to really think about up leveling in an exponential way, what are your next 7 to 15 moves, right? So a lot of us will create at 1 to 2 moves. And then once we get those boxes checked off, we'll go to the next. Okay, now the next move is this. And we'll check that box. And then the next move. If you're really looking ahead, like if you're a snowboarder or a skier in Montana and you're going down moguls, if you're looking at the mogul right under your feet, you're going to wreck and crash and wipe out, right? I've done
That's
it
a few
times.
concept.
A few times. If you're with a ski or a snowboarding coach, they always tell you to look at the 3rd one or the 4th one down the hill, and then you'll fall into the pattern of skiing or snowboarding, right?
Yeah.
And so this is the kind of the same idea with up leveling your business. what are your next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 moves so that you're constantly moving forward? Because if you're just focused on the one at hand,
Right.
you might miss something that's potentially really exciting.
Is there some good examples?
So let's see. I'm trying to think on what, really honing in for all the audience to gain from that. So if you are starting your business, let's just say you make amazing pies.
Right.
Let's just say you make the best pies and everybody's like, you've got to do this. If you decide to start a business and you're like, I'm just going to make pies and I'm going to put them on display and clients are going to come in and get them. We're missing the key components, right? You're going to have to find a supplier. You're going to have to find financing. You're going to have to do marketing. You're going to have a logo. You want to have your vision, all of these things. And if you're not thinking about all those moves, then you're just thinking about you're in your kitchen making the pie. And then you sit there and you say, oh, nobody's going to buy it. And why isn't anybody here? Oh, and by the way, I have to have a commercial kitchen, so I actually can't sell this pie.
Right.
So if you're not looking at your next moves, then you're eating your own pie.
Literally.
Literally.
And what's kind of interesting, a lot of people, especially new entrepreneurs, might say, I'm great at making pie, but they don't know what a HACCP plan is. Right. They don't know what a commissary kitchen is.
Yes.
They don't know how long it takes to actually get that license, that business license, the approvals, that red tape. And some of those business owners, I've heard some statistics, even almost 8 out of 10, almost don't even make it to that starting point.
You're right.
Right.
And the biggest reason why most businesses fail is lack of money.
Right.
Bar none. So
that's what we're doing it for.
Yeah. And you're borrowing from your friends, your family, yourself. Maybe you get an SBA loan and then you're out of money.
Right.
Because you haven't looked at what are those moves?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, those are great concepts. And I know you've got many areas of focus that you kind of want to hit on.
Yes.
What are some of those other areas of focus?
So being innovative, right? It's really, really important. So no matter what you do, even if it's making a pie, how do you innovate to make the packaging, look appetizing or appealing? I mean, that innovation on what does your store look like? That's what we're talking about. That's going to attract the kinds of right fit clients that we talked about before, right? And the right fit employees. If your place is a disaster and has flour all over the floor, employees aren't going to be proud to be there, right? And clients are going to come in. So really innovation on, your pies are worth it. Right? Let's innovate and figure out how to get it out to the masses. And innovation could also be mass distribution, right? So
wholesaling versus, point of sale, and retail. Yeah.
Yes. And remember though, some of us overthink what we can do in a year and underthink what we can, and don't think we can accomplish what we can accomplish in 3 years. So setting those steps, that's why those next moves are so critical. Campaigning's huge, right? How you market and what you do to market, whether it's hanging out door hangers or if you are doing podcasts, right? Or whatever it may be. What's the next TikTok? Whatever it is. So your campaign.
Know thy audience.
Yes.
Right. Know your demographic and who are you catering to, right?
Absolutely.
If you're selling pies, like a great example, are you selling it to elementary kids?
Right.
Or are you selling to high school kids? Or are you selling to MSU kids? No, you're probably selling to more family-oriented people.
Yes.
Correct? Are you going to put a piece of aluminum foil on top like Granny would do? Or are you going to put it in a box with a clear lid on there and it's already in a ready-to-eat fashion?
Absolutely. Right? And the perfect example is if you take your pies and you sit in front of a hardware store and then you wonder why your pies aren't selling.
Right.
And then you go to...
People don't want a cold pie.
They don't want a pie. But you go to maybe a church after the service and you have your pies there and all of a sudden you're sold out. Where is that campaign?
Right.
Where are you going to be? Where are you going to spend your time and money?
Sure.
And those campaigns create that exponential growth.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is leadership development with your team, you personally, right? Stepping into visibility, stepping in that you are good
Know
enough,
your strengths and your weaknesses.
knowing your superpowers,
Right.
all of it, and really having that leadership and then developing your team.
Right.
Because if you develop a team that can mimic you and sell the way that you do and
hit
make
the clone,
your pies.
I call it the clone button.
That's
if
right.
I can hit the clone button.
Yes.
You said put into systems and processes. So if you could clone yourself, here, follow these procedures.
Absolutely.
This is what I do. This is what I need you to do. Naturally, you've got a really beautiful smile.
Yes.
And you've got customer service.
Yes.
It's just like those are actually the attributes that you really just need to find. Everything else can be learned.
Well, absolutely. And there's a book that I love that's called The Ideal Team Player, right? And it's a fabulous book. And it really talks about there's three types of the ultimate employee. And they have to have all three attributes. They need to be humble, which means they can give praise, but they can also receive praise. So being humble is really, really critical. The next one is smart, and it's not about people smart. Right? It's about being able to read a room and adjusting accordingly. Can you imagine if a client came in and you have your pie shop and she's crying because she's going to a funeral for her dad and she has to buy pies because there are people that are hungry, and you're like, "Hey, how was your day?"
Right.
You know, if you're not being able to read your clients or your employees, that's a problem. So being people smart is
It's almost like being a chameleon. You got to adjust to whoever you're talking to.
You do. And it's really having that wherewithal, really being present and not being on your phone, not being distracted, not having flour in your hair, really being present for that client. The third thing that's critical, that's most challenging to learn or to teach rather, is hunger. And what I mean by hunger is that they have the drive to get out of bed. They have the drive to make the sales. They have the drive to make your pies. They have the drive to want to be, with your clients and in your business. So if you don't have those three things in a team member or your employees or your developing leaders, and they don't have them, it is well, failure, it comes to mind, right? It's like that rotten apple that we talked about in that beautiful bowl of apples. And when you read The Ideal Team Player, you'll understand the pitfalls of it. Because if you're not hungry and other employees are, they're going to see that other employee gets more smoke breaks, and they're talking on their phone, and they make one pie a day instead of 30 pies a day. Right?
Yeah.
So that's it. So that leadership development's really important. And reading that book also helps you to advance your leaders as well. The one thing that it doesn't talk about is a lot of our employees come from that fear-based mindset of I'm not good enough, I'm invisible, right? Or I have to do it all myself. And so that's where, again, books are fabulous, but there are some missing gaps that I can help coach people on. But from your next moves, being innovative, campaigning, leadership development creates that exponential growth.
So that's part of that. What's the recipe to that 9%? Is putting all these pieces into practice and have them efficiently moving in the same direction.
Right. So you start with that linear growth and then you push on. So the systems and all of that's in that linear growth, right? And your initial hiring of teams, when you're developing your teams, that's when you're getting the exponential growth.
Great.
Yes.
Great. Yeah. I mean, that's amazing on kind of seeing this trajectory, right?
Yes.
And you're saying, well, inflation is X. Let's call it 8%. You're saying between 6 and 12%, you're just staying in business.
You are.
You're not actually growing. Some people are like, well, I'm growing 12%. No, the cost of services, the cost of goods are actually sucking that margin out. So you better be actually almost doubling, right? So you'd almost say your 20% growth curve would actually look better.
Right.
100% growth curve would be amazing. But if you don't have the systems, processes, and people in place, that might be detrimental. Right? Because you weren't necessarily ready. And that's talking about that speed of business.
Right.
Sometimes you got to put your brakes on before you hit the gas.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, I do agree with that. So, but all of this is about upleveling your business.
Upleveling your business.
Yes.
I love it. And thank you so much for coming out here and teaching us about this amazing workshop and, taking the business to the next level.
Yes.
Right? Not just upleveling, but whole nother levels.
It is. And even if you want to stay how you are and you want to grow organically, you can still look at every process of your business and what can you do and how do you get from A to Z quicker so you have more time to yourself, so you can enjoy our mountains or you can enjoy the life that you're meant to have.
So can people get a hold of you? What's the best way to contact you and learn more about these processes? Because I know you just did kind of an overview. There's a lot of details in there. There's some platforms, there's some systems that you can actually give the names to and just say, hey, if I were you, this is what I would do. This is what we need to do.
Absolutely. You can go on my website, which is www.synergygrowthcoach.com, and you can book a discovery call with me. It's free, and I would love to talk to you about your business. I offer group workshops like the one that's coming up. That's Uplevel Your Business on May 8th, 2024. And
where's that going to be? Here in Bozeman?
It's going to be here in Bozeman.
Nice.
And it's very exciting. It's a 3-hour intensive workshop. I also do groups where I take you through a 7-week process so that you can hone in on what's going on for your business, go out and experiment, play with it, test it out, be perfectly imperfect, come back and talk about what you bumped up against, what worked, what didn't work, course correct. So it's a completely different mindset. And instead of just beating ourselves up, because so many times we just beat ourselves up.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Be part of the 9%, not the 91%.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
And that separation sometimes is asking for help.
It is. It's asking for the resources.
You're there.
And I am there. I am so committed. I have been through all the painful gaps and the painful growth and, being reliant on employees and hoping that that wrong employee doesn't quit.
Oh my gosh.
I've been there. I wish you to be there too. So I would love to help you out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on and giving us this wonderful expertise and this advice. And you got a great smile. And I'm sure people are thinking the same thing. They're like, I can relate to this woman. So, well, stay tuned for the next one. This is Alden Antonucci, your host with Extreme Power Hour. And this is Molly Whalen. And we'll stay tuned for the next.
Thank you.